We back with another video, man. Just water cooler talk real quick. It's your boy CJ Goodfella back with the boxing clinic. One time today for real. One time for the one time, man. It's been, ever since Errol Spence disposed of Kell Brook, there have been, ever-flowing talks about, this mouth-watering event, as Showtime says, between Keith Thurman, one time, versus Errol the Truth Spence, the Truth. And of course, we want to see this fight made as soon as possible. And the bad is Keith Thurman got injured right before this fight. Every time a big fight comes up, seems like Keith Thurman's got injured the last 2 years. And tired of hearing about this shit, you know what I mean? His injuries just come at the worst times. Whack as fuck. Seems like he's walking in Kell Brook's footsteps, right? But this is a good like classic boxing matchup. You got the classic aggressive fighter, with some flair to him, and Errol Spence, and the boxer mover who has his own flair, is able to knock out anybody. It seems like Keith Thurman. I know people talking about lately he hasn't been getting knockouts, but different strokes for different folks. When I'm saying that, different folks bring out different qualities in you, and he's showing that he's more than a puncher, and that's always the best tool to have in the bag is, have multiple tools. A Swiss Army knife, and that's what Keith Thurman is. And people ask different people's opinion on this fight. And before, if you follow my videos pretty closely, I said I knew Keith Thurman would probably go for Kell Brook sooner than he would for Errol Spence if Kell Brook won the fight. Not that Errol Spence won the fight. I don't know, man. I like to see him take this fight, but 1 + 1 = 2. When you come off an injury, natural reflex is to take a comeback fight. And that's what I think he's gonna do. This fight's not gonna happen till sometime middle 2018. Maybe 2019 if Thurman's able to stretch it out. Where when these sanctioning bodies get in the way, talking about these mandatory defenses and shit. And Errol wants to fight. The IBF has been the monkey wrench. In many fights lately. Joshua, trying to strip Indigo. And, hopefully they don't get in the way of this fight being made. And hopefully the WBC, the WBA doesn't get in the way. They both managed by Al Heyman. But as far as how they match up style-wise, man, it's pretty much going to come down to, how can Errol Spence take Keith Thurman's punches? Because, down the stretch, if you watch Keith Thurman fights, especially versus Robert Guerrero lately, he starts to fade when you go to that body a little bit. And he started to do a little running. Now, people talking about, running is boxing. It's different between running and boxing. When Floyd moves, it's educated. Ward, Hopkins, guys like that move, is educated. Now, when you get to dudes like Lara and Keith Thurman, sometimes it's educated, but a lot of times it's to run to get out the way. It's running. It's not educated. It's just, get out the way, clear my head, and create some space. It's not educated boxing movement sometimes for them too. But as far as, Keith, a guy like Errol Spence, who's like one of the 1A, 1B, and is cutting down the ring. He's going to make it tough on Keith Thurman. He's going to get to the body. He's going to get to Keith Thurman's chest. We see Kell Brook has some success being able to shoot the jab, shoot a check hook, turn Keith. But Errol Spence proves to be a true workhorse, thoroughbred type of fighter. He gets stronger during the fight, and Kell can punch. And with Keith, he don't throw a lot of body punches, but he can punch to the body, and he doesn't throw a lot of straight punches. Everything is right and left hook, and that's kind of, in my opinion, in Errol's favor. He likes to keep those earmuffs on and catch those punches. But Keith Thurman has the power to punch through the gloves as well. You can feel it. So I think Errol's going to have to come with some type of, head movement. But as far as he's able to take Keith Thurman's punches and kind of roll him off the steam and kind of, cut the ring off and make it tight for him, I can see, Thurman boxing well and winning the early rounds. But this ain't no Danny Garcia. This is a guy who ain't going to follow you around the ring. He's going to cut the ring off. He's going to anticipate where you're going, step over, and he's technically sound when it comes to cutting the ring off Errol Spence. And he's going to make it tight on Keith Thurman. And does Keith Thurman have the grit or determination to win a dogfight if it comes to that? When I think it will come to that, because Errol showed a pretty good chin versus Kell Brook. Does he have the determination to win a dogfight? We've seen in the Robert Guerrero fight where he made it ugly, where he made it close. Keith Thurman front ran on him, and he caught up with him at the end. You know, he jogged across the finish line to Keith Thurman. Errol Spence, he might start off walking, jogging, and crawling, but he gonna sprint through that finish line. He gonna finish through you. So can Keith Thurman bite down and fight a man's fight? You know, some that question Andre Ward's grit and determination. You know, he was able to show people versus Allen Green, Arthur Abraham, that he can fight on the inside and win a dog fight. Maybe because he light-skinned it, people think that about him and Keith. But Keith has shown vulnerability to slow down and not be able to fight on the inside and keep it held up with a dog fight. So it's pretty much going to come down to this. Can Keith Thurman, you know, knock Errol Spence out and get Errol Spence a clinching early with some punches? Can he put some stank on them punches? And can Errol Spence tank the stank that coming? And if he can take the spank that coming, can Keith Thurman box for 12 rounds against a bull that know how to cut the ring off and go to the body? It's going to be all about, can Errol take the punch? And if he can take the punch, can Keith box for 12 rounds? And without using the jab, he don't like to use that jab and that straight right. He don't like to. And Errol Spence is going to come in between those hooks with straight and tight punches, and we're going to get a war. And I can't wait for it. But I can't give you a winner right now because I don't know who's going to win. But guess what?